America, the land of liberty, home of the brave and the true. We will fight for the right to live fearless and free, proud as the red, white, and blue. We will fight for the right to live fearless and free, and we'll stand by the red, white, and blue.
Hello, my name is David Morris and I'm CEO of Youth for Ron Paul here at the University of Houston. And I have a confession to make. In 2008, I voted for the first time in a presidential election, and I voted for Barack Obama. What a shift, I know, right? See, I had hope that my vote might change the path that my government was on. See, I hoped that Barack Obama would stop the NSA from listening to the phone conversations, reading the emails of American citizens. Instead, he is overseeing the construction of the world's largest electronic spying facility, larger than any in North Korea, Iran, or even China. I hoped that Barack Obama would stop risking American lives and tax dollars in wars that do nothing to improve our national security. Instead, what's he do? He expands a drone war in Pakistan, begins bombing Yemeni dissidents on behalf of its corrupt leader. And he shirked the need for congressional authorization before sending our troops into Libya. That Barack Obama would make the tough choices that are needed to bring our country's financial house in order. Now, instead, he's brought us to the point where every ounce of wealth that our country produces in an entire year is owed to our nation's creditors.
You got that
right! And now, we're supposed to believe that the choice we have this coming November is between the leader that by consensus has failed us all, or Mitt Romney, a man who has no serious plan to change anything Barack Obama has started. I have great news. That's not the choice. That's not the choice at all. There's another candidate in this presidential race. And this person is the one who voted against the law that allows the government to read our email, against the law allowing American citizens to be imprisoned without charge, and against the Congress's bipartisan attempt to seize control of the internet. This person is the one who voted to send U.S. troops into Afghanistan so justice could be brought to the criminals who killed so many on 9/11. But who rightly opposed the invasion and occupation of Iraq, a war that has cost the U.S. over $800 billion of your tax dollars and 4,408 of your sons and daughters. This person is the only one in this presidential race with a realistic plan to balance the federal budget without breaking the promises that have been made to our mothers and fathers, grandmothers and grandfathers. And how long is it going to take them? 3 years. Everyone else talks about trimming the deficit. We will have a balanced budget. And the best news In poll after poll, the American public says they would elect him over Barack Obama. And just for NBC, ABC, CNN, Fox News, etc., we have way more than 96 delegates. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor to introduce the coming winner of the Texas Republican.
I want to thank Will Hearn for that wonderful. Well, we've been traveling around the country, we've been traveling around the state, and I'm sure glad the revolution is alive and well in Houston as well. Every once in a while, you've noticed that the media will come up and say, when are you going to quit? I just quit. We're just really getting going. But they said everybody else is dropping out. And I said, yeah, they ran out of money, they ran out of supporters, and nobody comes to their rallies. So the enthusiasm is obviously very great and growing. The crowds have been magnificent and the funds come in. But the message is, of course, the key issue. And we can be very pleased that it's well received. And of course, we know that it's well received by young people, but there are a lot of other people now at all age groups and all diversity, all kinds of diversity, who are enthusiastic about the liberty message. People have changed a lot in the last 4 years. We had a campaign 4 years ago. It was, as far as I was concerned, very successful. But something happened 4 years ago. Some of the things that we were talking about and warning about came about. There was a financial crisis. People know that there has an explanation for this, and they know that it has a lot to do with monetary policy and the mischief of the Federal Reserve System. Of course, next year would be a very appropriate year for that. It would be 100 years. They've had 100 years, and they've really messed things up. The Federal Reserve was given a very good dollar at the time in 1913. It's now worth 2 cents. I would say that along with the recession and unemployment and the rising prices, that they have come in with an F grade, they have failed, so it is time to look to something very non-complex of what to do. Why don't we just look to the Constitution and find out that gold and silver is supposed to be legal tender? That's all we need to do. Also what happened in these last 4 years is the discovery that American people are worn out. They're worn out with the wars, and they've come around to our assessment that we're going to war too often, too carelessly. We should do it only with a declaration of war under constitutional grounds. They're sick and tired. Is a drain. War is always an economic drain. Some people try to teach us in our schools that depressions and recessions are ended by going to war. That is nonsense. Always the cost of war is a depressant on the livelihoods of all Americans and all citizens. But the one thing is the American people now agree with us. 70% of the American people say, time to come home. Get home from Afghanistan. Instead of the Republican Party, the other candidates offering a solution that is even close to ours, they were competing to try to who is the most critical of Obama and who could advocate going into another war the most. We don't need another war. We don't need to go into Syria or into Iraq. In the last 10 years, the wars have added $4 trillion of debt. Our deficit has gone up that much in the last 10 years. Just think how much richer this country could be if we had not spent that money on wars that are not being won, and we don't even know while we're there. We don't know what the purpose is, and it doesn't provide for strong national defense, and of course they're not constitutional wars. But what if we had not fought any unconstitutional war since World War II? Think how wealthy this country could have been. Right now, today, we are not wealthy. We're the biggest debtor in the nation. We have a middle class, which used to be the largest and the wealthy in the history of the world, is now shrinking and getting poorer, and it has a lot to do with the foreign policy. So we need a constitutional foreign policy designed for strong national defense, bringing our troops home and getting out of these wars as soon as possible. Accusations that have been thrown at me over the years, and probably at you as well, has been that if you don't support the wars, somehow or another you don't support the troops. The question, if anybody asks about that, just ask them then, why do the troops support Ron Paul more than everybody else? I did my very best. I went, I served, but it was only afterwards that it really dawned on me that policy is what really counts. To put our young men and women under the circumstances that we have done is so precarious. And just think of the sadness of what is happening today. The thousands being killed, the tens of thousands being wounded and injured, the hundreds of thousands now begging and pleading for help by our Veterans Administration, the post-traumatic stress syndrome, the brain injuries that are going on, the suicides that occurred, the financing of this is ongoing. This is why, when it comes to the issue of war, it's probably one of the most important things that a Congress and a president should weigh and be extremely careful not to get involved. In 1998, our policies changed. Our policy at that time changed to that of getting rid of Saddam Hussein. Even though he had been an ally of ours for many years, and we tolerated all his shenanigans, but in 1998 said we have to get rid of Saddam Hussein. But they didn't have enough, they weren't able to get enough support for this and get the people behind it. But guess what happened? After 9/11, the support came. Remember all the stories we were told, the nuclear weapons he had, the weapons of mass destruction, the Al-Qaeda being in there? It wasn't true. So, of course, then the big argument was that we had to go to war. I was on the international relations, and I thought, now I have a different responsibility. So I could tell obviously the war propaganda was marching us off to war. So what I offered to the committee was, look, I don't want to go to war. I'm not going to vote for this authorization where you say the president can do whatever he wants. If you want to go to war, do it the right way. Declare the war and make sure people are on record for it. The other members of the committee didn't want to have any part of it. They were very annoyed, and they were annoyed when I called for a vote for it, and of course nobody voted for it. But the chairman of the committee at that time explained to me, as he looked at me, he says, Congressman Paul, I know you know something about the Constitution, but let me tell you, that part about declaration of war, that is anachronistic. We don't have to follow that anymore. That tells you so much what the problem is all about in Washington, whether it's economic policy, monetary policy, foreign policy, the protection of your personal privacy and personal liberties. That is the reason we do not have enough people in Washington who understand and will take their oath of office seriously. So the answer should be, don't send anybody up there until you're convinced they know how to read and they know how to understand and that they tell you the truth and will obey the Constitution. A little bit of compromise, not nearly as dangerous. That was the CISPA bill. And very sadly, it was passed yesterday with a pretty strong margin. Now the president claims he's going to veto this bill because it's not strong enough. He likes the Senate bill because it's much stronger and it will force Google and these other companies, force them to turn over all your information to the government. So this bill has not passed the Senate. There will be some more in negotiation. Keep your eyes and ears open on this. Let's hope that it doesn't get passed before the end of the year, because maybe we will have a new Congress and a new president by next year. Prevalent throughout our societies, in the Congress and in the Supreme Court, as well as in the executive branch. The Congress hasn't protected us, but our courts didn't do us much favor a couple of weeks ago because there was a ruling 5-4, and it had to do with police officers and police forces at all levels. How much leeway do they have in searching people when they're stopped for any reason? And they decided 5-4 on their vote that anybody that gets stopped, a policeman do strip searches without probable cause and without a search. I keep thinking that about what we see in the pictures of the groping and what goes on at our airports. If we put up with that, and we don't stand up to it and change that, there's something wrong with us. So I say, stand up to this stuff. Let's try and get it stopped. The Secret Service has been in the news lately. Have you heard about that? Yeah. I didn't accept any Secret Service protection. But the Congress passed a law that said that if you are an individual being protected by the Secret Service, you're special and you're different. If anybody gets in with so many steps of that individual and you demonstrate with a sign, you didn't do any harm, no violence whatsoever, you can be arrested and get 10 years for demonstrating that you're those special individuals. one characteristic of about a free society is that we all be treated equally. No punishments for belonging to a group, and no privileges because you belong to a group. I would say the politicians who think they have to have special privileges like that, we cannot accept the principle that some are above the law and some must be treated differently. Everybody has to be treated exactly like under the rule of law. There's another area that has, longer than the current wars of the past 10 years, that have served to undermine our liberties, and it's been going on for a good many years, but especially since the early 1970s. It has caused our national debt to go up over $3 trillion, and it has accomplished nothing. And that is the ill-advised federal war on drugs. Drugs are very dangerous. As a physician and parent and grandparent, I know all the dangers about drugs. But also, I know a little bit about liberty, and I understand a little bit about privacy and what freedom is all about. The war on drugs is a lot more